The barracks smell of rot and 300 bodies. At 04:30, the camp gong hits, a hammer against a steel rail. This sound ends your sleep and starts the clock. I stay frozen on the wooden planks for a second. The first rule here, hold your shoes. I keep mine under my head, laces tied around my wrists. If someone steals your shoes in the night, you are dead by noon. Without shoes, you can't march. If you can't march, they send you to the gas chambers. I see a Musulman, a prisoner who has given up, stumble into the aisle. His eyes are empty. The block elder screams and swings an oak club. I don't look at the hit, but I hear the dull thud of wood against bone. The man is knocked against the stone heater like a rag doll. No one helps him. We only have time to tie our rags and get out before the next blow. Outside, the mud is frozen into sharp ice. The wind cuts through the thin, striped tunic. I stand in the gray light, numbly doing up my buttons. Along the wire, I see the shadows of SS guards. The only light comes from their cigarettes and the searchlights. In the distance, a pistol cracks near the hospital block. The night's weak are being cleared. A group of prisoners moves toward the latrines, followed by a capo with a rubber hose. They move in silence, heads down. To be noticed by the SS is to disappear. I stare at the neck of the man in front of me. I don't remember his name, only his number. We are just digits waiting for the roll call on a square of frozen earth. The roll call, or appel, is the most efficient torture in the camp. Thousands of us stand in rows on the frozen ground of the Appellplatz. We are arranged by blocks, 5 men deep. The cold is a physical weight pressing against our chests. My feet, protected only by the shoes I guarded during the night, have lost all feeling. The rule is simple: stand straight and do not move. If you shiver too violently or collapse, you become a target. I watch an SS officer walk down the line. He carries a leather whip and wears polished jackboots. He stops in front of a man 3 rows ahead of me. The man is swaying, his lungs fighting pneumonia. The officer doesn't say a word. He simply picks the man's shins. I hear the crack of bone, but I keep my eyes locked on the horizon. To look at the guard is an act of defiance. To look at the victim is a waste of energy. The man falls into the mud, and 2 other prisoners immediately pull him up. They aren't being kind. They are preventing the entire row from being punished. If the count is wrong, we stay here until nightfall. The sun rises, but it brings no warmth. A light snow starts to fall, landing on the bald heads and thin shoulders of the crowd. To my left, I see the penal unit. They have been standing since 0300 as punishment for a missing button. One prisoner finally breaks and falls face first into the dirt. A guard approaches, pulls his pistol, and fires 1 shot into the man's neck. The sound is sharp, echoing off the wooden barracks. No one flinches. We have learned to turn our hearts into stone. The SS officer continues his count, stepping over the fresh corpse as if it were a piece of debris. The dead count is just as important as the live count. We must remain standing until every number matches the paperwork in the commandant's office. My neighbor whispers a prayer so low only I can hear it. I don't pray. I just focus on the rhythm of my breathing, counting the seconds. Survival is the calculated ability to become a statue while the world around you rots. Breakfast is a lie. It is a pint of warm, dark water with the bitter aftertaste of burnt acorns or rotten pine needles. We call it coffee, but it contains no life. We line up at the wooden vats, our tin bowls clattering like the bones of the men who died during the night. I watch the soup pourer, a prisoner with a bit more flesh on his bones than the rest of us. He is the master of our fate for these few seconds. If he likes you, He dips the ladle deep to find a scrap of potato skin. If not, you get the thin, gray water from the top. I take my portion and move quickly, guarding the bowl with both hands. In Auschwitz, calories are the only true currency. Every step you take, every time you shiver, you are spending your life. If you spend more than you consume, you become a Musulman. I see a young boy, no older than 15, staring at his bowl with tears in his eyes. He tried to trade his bread ration for a cigarette yesterday. Now he realizes the magnitude of his mistake. He is trading his future for a puff of smoke that is already gone. Then comes the bread. It is a heavy, dark brick, made more of sawdust and sand than flour. It is meant to last the entire day, but the hunger is a screaming animal in the gut. I see a man near the latrines being cornered by 2 others. He tried to hide a second portion of bread under his tunic. The capos don't wait for a trial. They drag him to the center of the yard and beat him with heavy rubber hoses. I hear the rhythmic thwack of the rubber hitting wet cloth and skin. The man doesn't scream, he only moans, a low, guttural sound that vibrates in the cold air. The rest of us keep eating, our eyes fixed on our own bowls. We do not look up. To show pity is to lose your own focus, and to lose focus is to die. I break my bread into 2 small pieces. I eat one now, slowly, letting the grit dissolve on my tongue. I hide the other piece deep in my pocket, pressing it against my skin. It is my only insurance for the evening. We are led toward the gate, the bitter taste of the pine water still coating our throats as the work commands begin to form. At 700 hours, the work commands begin to assemble near the main gate. This is the ritual of the morning march. A camp orchestra, made up of prisoners in clean uniforms, stands near the wire playing upbeat German marches and popular tunes. The music is intended to help the SS count us more easily by forcing us into a steady rhythm. It is a grotesque contrast, the lively, brassy sound of a polka echoing over thousands of starving men. We are ordered to march links 2, 3, 4, left 2, 3, 4. I pull my cap off as we pass the officers at the gate, keeping my chin tucked and my back as straight as my weakened muscles allow. To stumble during the march is to invite a blow from a rifle butt. I see a man in the row ahead of me lose his rhythm. An SS guard steps forward and strikes him across the shoulders with a thick wooden stick, timing the beat to the drum. The man staggers but does not fall. He knows that if he hits the ground, he will be kicked until he stops moving. We pass under the iron sign that reads Arbeit macht frei. The irony is a physical weight. Beyond the gate, the Sonderkommando are already at work, and the smell of the pits begins to drift over the fields. I look toward the side of the road and see a pile of bodies from the night shift, stacked like cordwood to be picked up by the trucks later. They serve as the final warning for the departing workers. I keep my eyes on the heels of the man in front of me, focusing only on the 1, 2 of the march. We are heading toward the construction site at Buna Monowitz, a 6-mile trek through the frozen Polish countryside. Along the path, civilian workers from the nearby town pass us by. They look away, their breath clouding in the air, pretending we are ghosts. We are invisible to the world, yet the music follows us for miles, a haunting, rhythmic reminder that we are no longer men, but a labor force to be used until the gears of the machine grind us into dust. The train arrives at noon. It is a long, heavy line of cattle cars, their wooden doors bolted shut from the outside. We are positioned nearby, waiting to clear the Canada sector of the platform. When the bolts are thrown back, the air that escapes the cars is thick and foul. People stumble out into the blinding daylight, blinking and terrified. They are dressed in their finest coats, carrying suitcases filled with the remnants of their lives, photographs, jewelry, warm blankets. They think they are being resettled. I watch an SS officer standing in the center of the platform. He looks bored. With a small, silver-tipped cane, he makes a split-second decision for every person who passes him. A flick to the right means the labor camp. A flick to the left means the birch grove. He doesn't look at their eyes, only their hands and their posture. Those who look strong enough to carry bricks go to the right. The elderly, the mothers holding infants, and the weak are sent to the left. I am ordered to gather the abandoned luggage. I pick up a leather suitcase that feels heavy with books. Nearby, a small child drops a teddy bear into the mud. I reach out to pick it up, but a guard's heavy boot stomps down on the toy, crushing its glass eyes into the dirt. I withdraw my hand immediately. Any gesture of human kindness is a provocation. I see a man trying to hold on to his wife's hand as they are forced into separate lines. A guard strikes him across the face with the butt of a Mauser, and the man collapses, his blood staining the white snow on the ramp. They don't hear the screams of the dying. They only hear the bark of the guards and the mechanical shouting of the guards. Within an hour, the platform is empty of people, leaving only mountains of coats, shoes, and suitcases. As I carry a load toward the warehouses, I look back and see the long column of those sent to the left disappearing behind the trees. They are walking toward a shower they will never leave.
At the construction site, the work is a frantic race against the clock. We are hauling heavy bags of cement and iron girders for the new factory walls. The capo in charge of our detail is a German criminal with a green triangle on his chest. He carries a length of thick rubber hose, his discipline pipe. He knows the SS is watching from the towers, so he must prove he can keep the slaves moving. I keep my head down, focusing on the weight of the sack on my shoulders. I see a man near the mixer pause for 5 seconds to wipe the sweat and dust from his eyes. The capo is on him instantly. He swings the rubber hose with full force. I don't see the man's face, but I see the cloud of gray cement dust puff out from his tunic as the hose strikes his back. It is a rhythmic, mechanical violence. The man falls to his knees, clutching his ribs, and the capo kicks him with heavy boots until he crawls back toward the cement pile. The dust makes it hard to breathe, coating our lungs in a dry, alkaline crust. We work in a trance, moving stones from one pile to another just to stay in motion. To stop is to become invisible. To become invisible is to be selected. I watch a group of Scheiss Kommando being forced to dig a trench nearby. A guard stands over them, poking them with a bayonet whenever the shovels slow down. He isn't looking for a reason to kill, he is simply bored. I see the red welts forming on the necks of the men around me, but no one speaks. The only sounds are the clinking of metal, the barking of orders, and the dull thud of the hose hitting skin. By mid-afternoon, my muscles are screaming, but I force my legs to stay steady. I look at the man next to me. He has a deep gash on his forehead from a falling brick, but he doesn't wipe away the blood. He knows that a bloody face is a sign of weakness, and weakness is a death sentence. We are not building a factory. We are digging our own graves with every brick we lay. In the camp, we don't say steal. We say organize. To organize is to survive. While clearing the debris near the SS kitchen, I spot 2 small, dirty potatoes sitting in the mud near a trash bin. My heart hammers against my ribs. I look toward the watchtower. The guard is facing the other way, lighting a pipe. In one swift motion, I snatch the potatoes and shove them deep into my tunic, pressing them against my bare skin. They are cold, but they feel like gold. I know the stakes. If the Lagerläufer or a guard finds them during the search at the gate, I will be taken to the black wall or the standing cells. I walk back to my work detail, my hand hovering near my chest to keep the potatoes from shifting. I pass the block of the standing cells, tiny stone chimneys where 4 men are crammed into a space no larger than a square yard. I see a pair of eyes staring through a slit near the ground. Those men have been standing for 3 nights without food. They are the living dead, a reminder of what happens when the rules are broken. The fear is a constant, cold sweat. I see a man in the neighboring detail get caught with a piece of leather he had organized to fix his shoes. The guards don't hesitate. They drag him to the center of the yard and force him onto the buck, the wooden flogging horse. 2 SS men take turns with a heavy whip. I hear the whistle of the leather and the sharp crack as it splits his thin trousers. The man's body jerks with every hit, but by the 10th strike, he goes silent. I keep my head down, my fingers clutching the 2 potatoes through the fabric of my robe. I am not thinking about his pain. I am only thinking about the search at the gate. As we begin the march back to the main camp, the weight of the stolen food feels like a lead brick. I see a capo watching the line with predatory eyes, looking for any bulge in a pocket or any nervous glance. I turn my face into a mask of stone. I am no longer Jakub. I am a vessel for 2 potatoes, carrying them through a gauntlet of death.
The return march to the main camp is slower. The music at the gate is now a funeral dirge for those who died during the shift. We carry the dead back with us, dragging their bodies by the arms so that the evening count remains perfect. On the apple plats, the gallows stand ready. 3 ropes hang motionless against the darkening sky. I stand in my row, the 2 potatoes still pressed against my ribs, praying the search is over. The camp is silent, a heavy, airless quiet. An SS officer stands on a wooden platform and reads the numbers of 3 men. They had tried to escape or organize something too valuable. They are led to the stools under the nooses. I do not look at their faces. I focus on the dirt at my feet, but I cannot shut out the sound. I hear the stools being kicked away, 3 dull wooden thuds, followed by the creak of the ropes under the sudden weight. The roll call continues as if nothing happened. We must stand at attention for 2 hours while the officers verify the lists. To my right, a man's knees buckle. I reach out a hand just enough to steady him, whispering through gritted teeth for him to stay upright. If he falls now, he will be added to the pile of the dead behind the barracks. I see the SS guards walking between the rows, their flashlights cutting through the gloom. One guard stops to adjust the noose on one of the hanging men, making a joke to his comrade. I feel a surge of cold fury, but I bury it deep. To survive, you must become a void. The count is finally finished, and the command to disperse is barked out. As we move toward the barracks, I pass under the gallows. The shadows of the hanging men stretch long across the mud, reaching for us. I don't look up. I only think of the darkness of the block and the small, stolen life I still hold under my tunic. Inside the block, the air is a thick wall of humidity and the smell of sickness. The doors are locked from the outside, leaving us in a tomb of shadows. I climb back onto the wooden planks, my body aching from the stones I hauled and the hours spent standing at the gallows. This is the only hour of the day when the guards are not screaming. In the corner of our bunk, I pull out the 2 potatoes. They are still caked in mud, but to me, they are life. I don't eat them alone. To survive here, you need more than calories. You need a reason to remain human. I tap the shoulder of the boy next to me, the one who traded his bread for a cigarette. He is shivering, his eyes sunken into his skull. I split the smaller potato and hand it to him. We eat them raw, the skin crunching between our teeth.
No words are exchanged, but the act of sharing is a small victory against the system that wants us to be animals. The silence of the barracks is broken by the low groans of the dying and the frantic scratching of rats in the straw. Suddenly, a man in the bunk above us begins to speak in a low, raspy whisper. He was a teacher from Warsaw. He tells us about a news report he heard from a new arrival. The front is moving, and the thunder we hear in the distance isn't a storm, but Soviet artillery. It is a dangerous hope, a spark that could get us killed if a snitch hears us. We lie there, staring at the underside of the planks above us, imagining a world where the chimneys don't smoke and the wire is gone. For a few minutes, we aren't numbers. We are men talking about the taste of real soup and the warmth of a fire. A man across the aisle begins to sob quietly, a sound so lonely it pierces the darkness. I reach out and touch the boy's arm, a silent signal to stay strong. We close our eyes, drifting into a shallow, haunted sleep, clinging to the rumor of the coming guns, like a drowning man to a raft.
The night in Birkenau is never silent. It is filled with the rhythmic breathing of hundreds and the distant mechanical hum of the crematoriums. I pull my tattered jacket tight and ensure my shoes are still knotted to my wrists. My stomach is a hollow ache, barely dulled by a scrap of raw potato, but my mind is drifting. Sleep is the only place the SS cannot reach. In my dreams, I am no longer number 128473. I am a man walking down a sunlit street in a city that hasn't been burned to the ground. I see the faces of people I loved, people who likely went to the left months ago. This is the ultimate rebellion, to dream of a future while surrounded by a factory of death. I listen to the wind rattling the thin wooden walls of the block, feeling the warmth of the boy sleeping beside me. He is still alive, and so am I. We have survived another 24 hours of the machine. The artillery in the distance growls again, a low vibration in the wooden planks. It is the sound of the end, but whether it is our liberation or our execution, I do not know. All that matters is that the day is over. I have stood the appel, I have hauled the cement, and I have kept my shoes. In the darkness, the hierarchy of the world is gone. There are no officers, no capos, only the exhausted and the dead. I close my eyes and let the gray reality of the camp fade into black. If I do not wake up at 0430 to the sound of the iron gong, then I have escaped. If I do, I will fight for one more day of oxygen, one more scrap of bread, and one more sunset. I descend into sleep, the final territory of freedom, as the smoke from the chimneys continues to drift across the indifferent Polish stars.